Hello everybody, good afternoon, assalamu alaikum. My name is Mohammed Salim and today I will be hosting a workshop in collaboration with Kadi Art about how to take pictures. So this is the outline of the workshop. I'll start by giving a brief introduction about myself, then I'll talk about why people do photography, the different types of photography, how you can get started with photography. I'll go over camera settings, post-processing softwares that you can use, and something for you guys to try and like practice photography at home since we're all quarantined. Okay, so before I start talking about myself, I just want to say this is a photo of me that my friend Saleh Luta took, and you guys can check his work out. His work is amazing. So for those who don't know me, my name is Mohammed Salim. I am a 22-year-old self-taught Emirati photographer from Dubai. I started photography early 2016 after a friend of mine gave me one of his old cameras, and I just took it everywhere with me. I took pictures of anything and everything, and eventually I fell in love with photography. I mostly do city or like street photography, but I really enjoy portrait photography as well. It's becoming one of my favorites. Before I start with why photography, this is a quote from one of my favorite photographers, and it says, "Art does not have a rule book." I think this can really help while taking pictures. It just lets you know that you shouldn't really stick to any rules, as art is subjective. So everyone can view art in a different way. As long as you understand that no one truly has the right to judge your work. So why photography? Why do people take pictures? There are countless reasons why people would do them. First and foremost, I think saving memories. You can take a picture, and that picture can be seen as a ticket back to that exact moment or memory. For example, you can take a picture of your sibling during a happy moment, and then whenever you would look back to this picture, you would always go back to that exact moment. You can also do the same while traveling. I've noticed many people do that when traveling mostly, because it just takes you back to that exact spot. There's also self-expression. You can use photography to express yourself in different ways. As they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Photography can be used to basically send a message to show people how you are feeling without really having to speak. And it's basically a form of communication, which leads us to our next point, which is communication. Communication and self-expression go hand in hand, as communication is also like photography is also a form of communication. You can self-express yourself through photography, but you can also communicate different ideas. As for creativity, photography can be used as a form of creativity. You can show the world the way you look at it. For example, like everybody has a different perspective on certain topics, so you can be very creative with it. So there are countless types of photography. However, I haven't tried every type, so I don't feel like I'm in the position to speak on them. However, these are some of the types that I have used, so I feel like I can talk about them. First and foremost, portrait. I believe portrait can be the most expressive and emotional type of photography, as it is based on taking pictures of people. You show their emotions through the picture. Just like I mentioned before, taking a picture of your sibling, for example, during their happiest moment, that shows their happiness through that picture. Wildlife. Wildlife is basically the art of taking pictures of animals in their natural habitat, which is which I find is like very wonderful. I really enjoy doing wildlife photography. Landscape is showing natural spaces that are within the world. So, for example, Iceland or Ras Al Khaimah here, like in Dubai, in UAE, sorry, or Al Ain. The mountains there are very gorgeous. I have an example of landscape photography in after like coming up soon. I'll show you one of my pictures. As for fashion, fashion is basically displaying clothes or other fashion items. You usually find these types of pictures in advertisements, in magazines, and such. Social media as well, like it's been growing very huge on Instagram now. Architectural is basically the art of photographing buildings and other aesthetically pleasing structures. I have an example of that coming up, and I can show you guys that. Aerial. Aerial basically involves taking pictures from a vantage point that you usually like that isn't really easily accessible to everybody. For example, with a helicopter or with drones, you can get amazing photographs that from different angles. I'm pretty sure people have seen some of Dubai and such on Instagram. They go very viral. So this is an example of a portrait image I've taken. It's a picture I took of my friend Ahmed during a time when we were out, and it was a very, very fun day. So I usually find myself going back to this picture just to relive that moment. It's one of my favorite portraits as well. As you can see, I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but the flag behind him is matching his outfit. And I thought that was really cool, and the clouds in the sky creates a contrast. This is the landscape photo I was talking about. It is in Ras Al Khaimah, Al Jazeera Al Hamra. You can see the old houses being overtaken by nature, and there's a mosque here in the distance. Surprisingly, there are still people who live there. I did not know that, but they're on the other side where you can see. I don't have a picture of that, but you'll be able to tell that if you go see the place yourself. I was told by some of my friends that it's closed down now as they want to preserve the location, which I think is a good idea because it holds so much history. And here's an example of architectural. This is a photo I took in Dubai. Before I start talking about the photo, I just want to put a disclaimer out there that please do not attempt to recreate such things, as they are very dangerous and could cost you your life. This is a photo I took in Dubai a while ago. However, you can see this is the Cayenne Tower. It is the tallest twisted tower in the world. It is in Dubai Marina, with the Dubai Eye here showing in the background. It's one of my, this picture has been growing on me. It's one of my favorite now. So how do you get started? I think the first step is finding a camera to start. Honestly, I started with a friend giving me a very, very old camera he had. It was from 2007. However, nowadays the phones are like amazing. I've seen my friends use the iPhone 11 Pro or the new Huawei. I forgot its name, but the cameras on both of these phones are amazing. I've seen amazing pictures. Especially with the Huawei, you have the option to use manual mode on that camera, which is very impressive for a phone camera. And I think the photographer is more important than the camera itself, because I've seen multiple videos of people doing challenges on YouTube, and usually they would give a very good photographer a bad camera, and someone who doesn't usually do photography a very good camera, and then you'd see that the photographer with the bad camera would produce pictures that are better than the person who just has the better camera. So first and foremost is finding a camera to start. Finding the perfect camera to start. Honestly, in today's world, the perfect camera to start is in your pocket. It is your phone. And it can basically determine if photography is a hobby for you or not. Because if you enjoy taking pictures with your phone, where you don't have complete freedom over the settings and changing the lenses and all of that, then a camera would make you enjoy photography even more. The second tip I can give you is to take as many pictures as you can. If you own a camera or a phone, just take pictures of anything and everything around you. If it's people, of course, you take their consent before doing so, and just try and get creative with it. Find inspiration. So for finding inspiration, inspiration can be found anywhere, honestly. Anything that you enjoy, or different photographers that produce amazing pictures, for example, is one of the things that inspire me. For the longest time, my blue Converse shoes have inspired me. I don't know if you guys have seen some of my old pictures from rooftops and such. They were all like behind the idea of my blue Converse, as they were all taken around like areas that have like hints of blue to just to match the show. And I guess the inspiration shows in the pictures. So finding your style. So people really emphasize on this. I don't think it's that big of a deal, as you shouldn't be just stuck with one quote unquote style. You can just have the freedom to do anything and everything you want. Like just take pictures of what you enjoy. Do not let people tell you, oh, you're not good at this or not good at that. As long as you're taking pictures, it's fine. And take as much time as you need. Do not rush the process, as it can take time. Not everybody can learn it instantly, and that is the beauty of it. I mean, 4 years later, after starting photography, I'm still learning new things every time I do it. Make mistakes, learn from them. And the last tip I can give you is use manual mode if it's possible. So if your camera has it, or your phone has manual mode, please do use it, as it allows you to push the camera to its absolute limit. And that way you can take the picture and make it the way you want it to look. I always use manual mode whenever I'm shooting on a camera that has the option. And take your pictures in RAW format, as it is better quality and you can edit it easier afterwards. So the camera settings. The camera has three main settings, which is the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed. The ISO is the most, I believe, straightforward one of them. It is basically just the the unit of measurement for the sensitivity of the image sensor. It basically brightens or darkens the photo, and usually you would not want to keep the ISO very high, as the higher it is, the noisier the image is going to be. I don't know if you guys have seen those or know what noisy images are, but you know when a photo is very grainy and looks really bad quality, that's usually because the ISO has been bumped up. And as much as you can, just try to keep the ISO as low as you can, unless it's very dark and you're forced to push the ISO up. Don't be afraid to do that, as the grain can be somewhat altered with post-processing. So aperture. Aperture is basically the opening in the lens in which light is allowed through the camera. So you know that sound that you hear after taking a picture, that is basically the shutter opening and closing. And the aperture decides how much the shutter opens up. So the higher it is, the more it is going to open up, and while the lower it is, the less. So when taking pictures of people or something in focus, uh, you would want to keep the aperture lower, as you would want to blur the background so it does not distract the audience on the picture. However, if you want to take, for example, a landscape photo, you would want the aperture to go up higher. The last thing is the shutter speed, which is basically how long the camera shutter remains open while a picture is taken. So this is the time between the first sound and the second sound. And we've seen the light trail photos, or which cars or like buses and trains like moving really fast and you don't even see them, you just see like a trail of light. That means the shutter speed was opened up more for a longer time, which allowed movement in the camera, and the camera registers the light as a moving object. And here is a pyramid that could help understand the way aperture, shutter speed, and ISO work together. As you can see here, with ISO, the higher it is, the more grain it is in the picture, while the less grain there is. And as for shutter speed, the slower it is for a moving object, the sharper it is going to be. As you can see here, the man is running, and the more or the longer the shutter speed is going on for, the blurrier the man is going to be as he's moving. And for aperture, you can see here, it's focused just on the man while the background is blurred out because he's on a 1.4 aperture. Well, and the higher it goes, the less depth of the more, or sorry, the less depth of field there is, and everything shows in the picture. So post-processing. Post-processing is not a must. However, I enjoy the process of post-processing. I've seen many photographers who do not touch up on their pictures at all, and their pictures still look amazing. It's optional. You don't really have to do it. It is just the process of editing your picture to enhance it, improve on the quality. And if something is wrong with the picture, for example, you took a picture of the street and it's a little bit dark, and you're at home right now, you can't go back to that spot. You can just post process it, reduce the contrast, up the whiteness and the brightness, reduce the darks and such. Changing colors of pictures can also be done through post processing. A lot of creative stuff. And tomorrow's workshop is with Khalifa is going to be talking about editing. So I think if you guys have interest, you should attend that. Here are some post-processing softwares you guys can use. I personally find myself just using Lightroom. It is my favorite application. It's available for free on the App Store for your phone. However, if you want to use the desktop version, which is what I use, I think you need a cloud subscription for like $9 a month or something. You get Photoshop and other apps too. ViscoCam is another free app on the phone, which is really useful. When I first started photography, I would just use Visco and Snapseed, which I'll talk about later. It has pre-built filters, which you can set and then alter with your own. Yeah, I agree. Snapseed is really amazing. I really enjoyed using it, and I still do. Whenever I take pictures on my phone, I either use Visco or Snapseed. And Photoshop is very complex to me. I don't really use it. I find it amazing, but very complex to me. Honestly, as much as I try, I just know how to do basic stuff. However, I've seen people do really impressive stuff with Photoshop, and if you think you would enjoy it, I would definitely recommend you go for it. It just lets you be as creative as you want. Snapseed, just like Visco, is another free app available on the phone. I really enjoy using it when I take pictures with my phone. And as for Affinity Photo, I have never used that app, but I've had my photography friends recommend it for me, and I've seen a couple of videos about it, but I never really got to use it as I love Lightroom. And something for you guys to try. This is just an exercise. You don't have to do it, but you could just set up objects around that. This is how I started when I first started and I couldn't leave the house. I would just set up random objects around the house and try to take pictures of them with different lighting. For example, I would set up my skateboard at certain places in the house, dark rooms or rooms with more light in them. And I would try to challenge myself and say, oh, if I take a picture of that skateboard with fully lit up or very visible in the darkest room in the house at different angles, try to be creative with it. You can also do light trail art. If you have a tripod or anything, you can set your camera up on, just put the shutter speed at a longer time and just draw with it. It's a fun process to start with, and I feel like it would really teach you how the three settings in the camera work hand in hand together. You can have a family member or a pet model for you and try to capture portraits of them. This can bring out creativity as well. You can look at them through different perspectives, for example. And I don't know, if you can take pictures of flowers in your garden, like macro pictures where the pollen shows. I find these really interesting. And these are my social medias. I have my website up here, my Instagram and my Twitter. Are you still uncomfortable with handling and dealing with professional camera? That's a good question. I would think, honestly, if you could watch YouTube videos, they are very helpful. I mostly firstly, I relied on taking pictures myself as much as I can with manual mode. Just mess around. Anything you can take pictures of, just take pictures of it. YouTube videos, there are amazing YouTube guides that teach you basically how to start with your camera as well, and how every setting of the camera affects the picture. There's also amazing YouTube editing videos if you want to start learning how to use Lightroom or other applications. Just search up the application name and you should find a good guide on it. And for cameras, I would definitely focus on, for example, with me, I limited myself to a prime lens, a lens that doesn't have the zoom option, just to try and make myself a better photographer. For 2 years in a row, I only shot with a 24mm lens. That way I did not have the option to zoom in or zoom out, and made me have to either approach, get closer to my object, look at it from a different point of view, and such. And once you're comfortable with it, you can start looking into different things as well. I have a photo book coming soon with different photos that I've taken unreleased and released. So feel free to, when it releases, I will be posting it on my social media. And if you have any interest, you can order one. It will be limited, but I really hope I get the book done very soon. The book is finished. I just need the to find the perfect factory to get it printed out. And with the whole pandemic going on, it's been somewhat tough. But inshallah soon. So do you study anything about photography at university? I have never, sadly. Uh, Sometimes I feel like I wish I did, because I feel like those university classes about photography do benefit, especially in editing. They can't teach you to be creative per se, because I don't believe creativity can be taught in a classroom. However, they are very informative in learning the basics of a camera and editing, which can just build up creativity. What if people ask you for portraits? So ask me for portraits doesn't take pictures of them. Because I enjoy portraits, I would not mind doing it. However, if they bug me a lot or annoy me a lot or make it seem like that's all they want out of me, so like maslaha basically, I would not do it. Or asking me to take pictures of me, if that's what you meant, then most of the time I'm okay with it. I used to not be okay with it, but I guess it's growing on me slowly. I'm being more and more okay with myself and being in front of the camera rather than behind it. So I decided, and it was extremely embarrassed, almost felt like a roller coaster. Yeah, I get you. It's very, very tough. I feel especially in this part of the world, as people here are very conservative. I feel they don't usually like being in front of the camera. It might seem weird, but I feel like it's people are slowly understanding that, and I think it's a good way to preserve our culture or history by taking pictures of people. Like I've seen pictures of the UAE from the 70s, and I'm just happy that whoever was in that picture allowed the photographer to take the picture, because like looking at that picture now, it's just crazy to me. It's like a part of history right now. So how would you describe your particular style of photography? What's the process of building that brand? Okay, so 2016, I was going through a very dark or sad time and guess it's what brought up my creativity. And as for style, I started off with just taking pictures of anything, and then I grew to going on rooftops, which I don't do anymore, and I do not recommend anyone to do. Um, and then I slowly just, after looking at other people's photographs, I started enjoying them. For example, like one of my favorite photographers is, wait, I'm gonna go back to the quote, Denzel Leonard, which is at Valandes on Instagram. After looking at his pictures and seeing him document like his lifestyle and his surroundings, I started wanting to do that. It got me into taking portraits. And then after getting a cat, I enjoyed taking pictures of my cat. So that's what made me enjoy taking pictures of other animals. Birds mostly. I enjoy taking pictures of birds a lot. Don't really share them. That's mostly for like myself. But building your brand, you can just start with anything, honestly, and then it just grows into a mixture of stuff. So I wouldn't say I personally have a certain style. Well, maybe I do have a certain style of editing, but as for taking pictures or something, I enjoy almost everything because I truly love photography. Did you ever suddenly lose interest in photography? I loved photography for a while and then suddenly gave up on it. I honestly don't know how to get back to what used to be my hobby. That is a very excellent question. Thank you, Zaina. Um, Actually, 2018 going into 2019, I was going through like probably the biggest art block I've ever experienced. I did not feel joy when taking pictures, and it just discouraged me from taking pictures. I even went to Japan during that time, and most of the pictures I took during that time felt like I was being forced to do it just because I wanted to take pictures. What made me love photography again was going back to what made me started. So like, don't ever forget the reason you started. And I think that for a reason, for a while, I forgot. So I just got back to how I started at first, and slowly my love for it grew again. Setting for taking pictures very different from taking videos. Not so much. I'm talking about using a DSLR. I haven't used a professional video camera ever, so I don't really have much knowledge on those. But with a DSLR, you have the same options with ISO and aperture mostly. But if you want to take videos, I would recommend just getting a camera that is made for taking videos, as those have more options. I wouldn't think it's much different, but yeah, similar in a way or another. So if you know how to take pictures, you would definitely know the basics of taking videos. Although with videos, you want to be stable, as you don't want shaky cameras. And for me, I have shaky hands, so it's kind of hard to do so. Especially with photography and long exposure, I have to rely on tripods. Did you ever try taking pictures of paintings? I actually have not, and I would. That is a good idea, honestly. I would. I should have thought about that, but no, I sadly haven't. Thank you for the question, though. It opens up more ideas and stuff for me to do. Common mistake people make when taking a picture. Uh, I would not say that exactly a common mistake, because a lot of my favorite photos were like taken on accident, maybe. But I would say I feel like a lot of people that I know don't really use manual mode on their cameras. They own like very amazing cameras, but they never use manual mode. I would say, or shoot your images in RAW as well. Try to change the settings to make the images in RAW. That is also a very common thing I've seen people not do, because when it's in RAW, especially now, since phones can process that file format, when it comes to editing, you have so much more freedom, and the quality of the image is the absolute maximum. So use manual mode and shoot in RAW. Any website you can sell your pictures on? Yeah, I think Redbubble is one of them. They service everything. You just post your art on there, and I guess you set the prices, but they take a certain percentage of it. I'm not sure. And I would definitely, if you're interested in selling your art, keep an eye out for when there's the Kadi art market or the D3 art market as well. I'm working on selling my prints, but I'm still prioritizing my book first, and then I'll work on prints. You're welcome. Good luck. Thank you for attending. Thank you to everybody who's here, and thank you to Miriam for giving me this opportunity.